Hey everyone, I'm Pion and welcome to Dr. Flow. What is Dr. Flow, you ask? I like to call it a cost management automatic filtering game. It's available on Steam and this is what it looks like. In this game, you're supposed to filter little dots based on different symbols, and you do that by using various filters which are over here. Those dots are representing patients which have different illnesses, and every illness has a certain set of symptoms, and you can filter them by using diagnostics over here to look for certain symptoms. And the goal is to make this as cost efficient as possible. As you can see, every diagnostic over here or every filter has a cost attached to it, and well, it will rack up the amount of money you have to spend to diagnose all those patients. Well, let me show you how it works. So we have to separate them into these three categories. So we can use the heart filter, for example. It will filter the patients for the patients that have the heart symptom and the ones that don't have the heart symptom. And we can move this around. The UI works very nice. I like that you can move this around freely, and this one as well. You can move everything freely. You can zoom in and out and drag around. That works quite nicely. And now we have them filtered by the heart symbol, and now we can separate them further by the square, not symbol, well, symbol or symptom, I guess it's the same in this game. And we connect this, so if they don't have the heart, then they go over here. As you can see here, this patient is going over here because it doesn't have the heart symptom. The other one's going over here, and the ones with the square go over here in this bottle, and the ones without go over here. And that's the basic idea of the game. You can pause this if you want to debug your workflow. Sometimes you mess it up, or you can speed it up if you're sure that it's correct, and you can take a look at your results, and it says execution cost 2,000 euros, and that's apparently more than the best possible score in this level. So let's take a look at it and try to improve that, shall we? So you might have noticed the diagnostics for heart is pretty expensive in comparison to the other ones. So checking for that first might be a bad idea. So instead, let's try checking for the square one first, because that's the cheapest one. So if they have the square symptom, if they don't have the square symptom, then they obviously go in here. But if they have the square symptom, we can check for the heart symptom now and can filter them by that. So, and that should be way more efficient. So if we let it run through, well, not way more efficient, but we save 100 euros. So if you take a look now, you can see you can make it even cheaper than that. You can take out the heart filter in general and just filter by triangle instead. And that's better. That's even better. That's 1,570 euro. The main issue with the game I have is getting apparent right now. You can see that I got a best score of 1,520 before. And if you take a look here now, it seems like I have the optimal solution here. I filter by the cheapest symptom, or with the cheapest diagnostic first, and with the second cheapest second. And it looks like, if you take a look at it for a moment, it seems like this is the optimal solution. The thing is, it is not, because of the distribution of the patients. And the problem is that the distribution of the patients is arbitrary. You would expect, well, at least I expected it to be equally distributed. So 1/3 of the patients go in this bottle, 1/3 of them goes in here, and 1/3 of them goes in here. But there's 16 patients, so that's not even possible. And so the distribution is arbitrary. It's always the same, so it's predetermined, it's not random, but it's always, but it is arbitrary. And obviously the distribution affects the cost. So that's a little weird because it makes it hard to optimize the game. Obviously you could just run it and count or take note down the distribution, because they always come in the same order as well, I think. But yeah, that's obviously not a good way of doing this. So you might optimize your flow for an equal distribution because you don't know better, and then you run it and you find out it's not actually equally distributed, and you're getting a little annoyed. At least I do. I mean, some people might not be annoyed as much as I am, but I like doing things optimally, and this game basically makes that really, really hard and annoying. So that's a little strange design decision here, but let's talk about a few more mechanics. So let's go to scenario 9, I believe. Yeah, okay. So there are other filters as well. We got the regular filters already, or diagnostics. There are also those which are the negative diagnostics. So this one will send them to the plus output if they don't have the Pac-Man symptom. So we would set this up like this. If they have the pigment symptom, they go out here. And secondary, we have to filter by something else. And that's just the negation, like it's just swapped around from the positive filter, which obviously doesn't add anything to the game, but it makes more sense if you take a look at this filter, because this is a combination filter, and it basically says it filters for patients with the plus symptom, who don't have the square symptom. That's not very useful in this level, actually. Well, I think you can. No, it's useful because of cost optimization, but let's not go into detail here how to optimize this specific level. But so this allows for more complex levels, obviously, because you have those combinations of different filters in one thing. But like patients who go through here can, for example, have the plus symptom, but also have the heart symptom, as long as they don't have the square symptom. So you can set up more complex situations with this. Let me show you one more mechanic, though. If we go to level 18, it gets really interesting, because now we have filters which have a percentage or probability attached to it. And now it gets actually fairly, at least as far as I can tell, I'm not working in medicine or anything, but I think it, like, in a very abstract way, it gets actually very, very close to how real life stuff works when it comes to diagnosis, because you do different tests, and those tests can fail. They can give you wrong results, and there are two different ways a test can fail. It can either tell you that the outcome of the test is positive, but in fact it was negative, or the other way around, the test could give you a negative result besides the true result being positive. And the interesting thing when it comes to that topic is that those two probabilities usually aren't the same. So it can be way more likely, super likely, that you get a positive outcome while having a patient who's actually negative. But the same test giving you a very, very, very low percentage of the opposite happening, a patient who is actually positive being tested negative. And the game tries to simulate that by having filters which have a probability attached to at least one of the two outputs of the filter. I think they never attach to both. I'm not quite sure. I didn't saw one yet. I didn't play all the levels, but I only saw filters which have the probability attached to one side. I don't see a reason why they wouldn't have it to both sides, but so far that's the way. So if we put this thing here, then we can say for sure that everything that goes out here will have the arrow symptom. So everything goes out here has to be in one of those three thingies. But the ones that go out here will probably not have the arrow symbol, but we can only say that for a 90% chance, we can only be 9% sure, because 10% of the ones that come out here will actually have the arrow symbol, which is a little confusing. Well, not confusing, but makes the whole thing way more complicated, because the game doesn't allow you to fail any patients. So as soon as you misdiagnose one of the patients, you have to restart the level and it doesn't count. So that makes it a little tricky. You can work around that in multiple ways. You can either, well, two ways actually. You can either just multiply, do the test multiple times. So you can do something like this and say, okay, if it fails, it probably goes here. Like now we have 2 times 9%, so that should be around 90, close to 99%, I believe. My math fails me right now. Having the plus outcome both go in the same, like let's say this is our next step, then we let them both go in here, and now we filter by moon, and then we do the rest and stuff like that. Well, what would it be? It would be like this probably. You can do that, but that's pretty expensive. Also, we have another issue here. We would have to do the same thing here, and sometimes just chaining 2 together isn't enough, and chaining 3 together is really, really expensive. There's another trick, however. Sometimes I'm not actually sure if this is possible in this level, but sometimes you can set them up in a way that you combine 2 different filters, which both are not 100% sure or not 100% safe, and you can set them up in a combination that they filter, or that they send the patients back to the input until they go out to a safe path, so you can make sure that the outcome is correct and in a fairly cheap way. And if you compare this how the mechanics work here with the real life testing or diagnosis, it's actually somewhat similar. So as I said, in a very abstract way, but it goes in the same direction. Like you have for example, you have a very cheap first test that is very unlikely to tell you you're actually healthy when you're in fact ill. It's very unlikely to do that, but there's a pretty high chance that it will tell you you're ill while you're actually completely healthy. And that's how you usually do that, because if the test outcome is that you're actually ill, then there will be a follow-up test, which might be way more expensive, but it's way more precise when it comes to determining if you're actually ill. So, and that's basically a similar thing you do here. You have multiple tests with different costs and different chances of being correct. And so the idea of optimizing those workflows is very similar to how it works in real life, which I find, well, pretty interesting, and it's well implemented, I think. Like, it's very well abstracted to the core mechanic and core ideas to that. So I appreciate that. But as I said, I don't appreciate the way the distribution works in this level, so that's pretty annoying. So to kind of show you what is possible in this game, let's go to one of the more, well, to the last level, why not? Scenario 41, there's 41 levels. So in this level, you have 50 patients, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different illnesses with I don't know how many different symptoms, and you have like a couple of filters over here with various different costs and very crazy combinations as well. Like a filter like that is pretty complex, and I think that they're all safe filters though. They dropped the fail chance mechanic in the last level apparently, but I think this is complex enough on its own with completely safe filters anyway. So yeah, there's pretty complex stuff possible. So there's if you really dig the mechanics, you can spend a lot of time playing this game, I think. 41 levels is a decent amount for this. It's not tons of levels, obviously, but it's a good amount, and the game is fairly cheap, so that kind of makes sense. So, yeah, that's what's in the box. There's also this button, which swaps between 3 different backgrounds. Let's take a look at the option menu. There's a separate sound slider, there's a full screen window button, no borders window, unfortunately, different resolution options. There are no hotkeys in the game, so key reminding doesn't make sense. So I'm not really missing anything besides the borderless window mode here. Yeah, so the option menu is fine. As I said, like the menuing can be a little confusing, because you might have noticed that every time I got into a level, to switch level, I had to go to the main menu, then press scenarios again, then this is scrolled all to the top, and I have to scroll it down to level 1. It's a little annoying. Also, that while you're in a level, you cannot, like, the only way to progress or see the leaderboard is to actually solve the level, which is annoying as well. So yeah, it's a little iffy UX-wise, but for the most part, it works fairly well, as I showed you earlier. Like the moving around of the components and stuff like that, and connecting and deconnecting them works fairly well, so that's okay. Overall, I found the game pretty fun for a while. I played it for a good number of hours now, but got a little bored after a while, especially because I got annoyed by the distribution thing, as I mentioned. That really, like, I love doing things optimally. That's what I strive for in games like this. Like, that's why I prefer playing the smaller levels in Tektronic games, for example. I prefer playing the first few levels and optimizing the heck out of them, instead of playing the more complex levels, because those complex levels are it's just not possible to do them optimally, or at least not for me, and that makes it really hard for me to do them, because I'm always thriving for doing them optimally and trying to do it optimally from the start, and that's just not a good approach for those complex levels. And it's kind of the same here. Like, I enjoyed the first few levels, and when they got too complex, I got a little I got bored of it, basically. But I think the core mechanic works very, very well and is fun, except for this one big design flaw with the distributions, which is I don't understand. Like, I don't understand how this can be, how something like this can be in the game. It's really, it always surprises me that I think so different than many other people's, or many other people think different than in comparison to me, I guess. It's just my mind that would never allow something like that to happen in a game I design, but apparently there are a lot of people who do that, and I probably would do things they wouldn't allow in their games, so that's just fair. But I think it's important to know because, well, yeah, some people of you might get annoyed by that as well. Anyway, I start rambling here, so let's wrap this up, shall we? The game is called Dr. Flow. It's available on Steam. It's fairly cheap. Link is in the description below. You can pick it up for yourself if you want to. I'm THPion. Thanks a lot for watching. Have fun, and we'll see you next time.